curse of the second Red Bull seat, a miracle for them to actually finish the Australian Grand Prix. It's going to be Daniel Ricciardo. Almost 2 decades. Hello everyone and welcome back to All About Steph 1, where I, Steph, talk about F1, and it's time for the classic video, the one I make every single year. It's time for the 2026 season predictions. Now this season is marked by change, it's marked by unpredictability. All we have to go on is testing so far and what we have seen. Your guess is as good as mine. So stick with me as we go from P22/P11 all the way up to P1. Starting off confidently with Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas in P22 and P21 respectively. That also means that Cadillac as a whole will be P11 in my team's championship. And this is totally nothing personal. I love both Checo and Valtteri. I think they're both excellent drivers, very experienced, and it's wise of Cadillac to have brought in 2 veterans of the game to the brand new team. But it's just that. A brand new team. And it's definitely a steep learning curve in Formula One, one that Cadillac will have to climb over the course of their time in the sport, but it's not going to be an easy first season for them. And although we've seen some highs in testing with them not being too far off the pace, putting in decent mileage with decent reliability, it's still going to be an uphill climb throughout the 2026 season. In P20 is Gabriel Bortoleto. 2025 brought the highs and lows of a rookie season with several top 10 finishes, but also the lows of crashing out at his home race in Brazil. I can foresee this being a season of personal driving development for Bortoleto. However, with Audi negotiating the new landscape of being its own power unit supplier amongst all of the established ones on the grid, I can see it being a season of struggles for Audi rather than its drivers. In P19, Lance Stroll, who has markedly said that Aston Martin are 4.5 seconds off the pace. Much like Audi, I believe Aston Martin will have troubles throughout the season. They started development on their 2026 car far later than the other cars in the field, so are definitely a step behind and will take some time to catch up. Particularly after a difficult testing with poor reliability and only racking up 128 laps on the clock. It's going to be difficult with little data and little knowledge about the car and about how it functions under a race simulation. Aston Martin are 100% going into this season on the back foot. In P18, I've gone with Nico Hülkenberg, a very established driver on the grid, 251 race starts, and finally grabbed that elusive podium last season. As mentioned before, it's less about Nico's struggles and more about the struggles of Audi as a whole, but hopefully their progression is fast, as we know they've been so successful in other motorsport series, and they'll put their all into Formula One. In P17, I've gone with the one and only rookie that is on the grid this season, Arvid Lindblad. From what I've seen in testing, he seems to have settled in quite well, having racked up the highest ever total lap tally over one single day in pre-season testing in Bahrain, with a total of 165 laps. In a field full of such experienced drivers and so many variabilities this season, it tracks that a rookie would be on the lower end of the championship standings, though I do hope he's going to have a really good season and establish himself as a great Formula One driver. In P16, I've gone with Fernando Alonso, and it does pain me to put him so low down, as we all know what a character he is and what he brings to the table in Formula One. Alonso has always been at the very top of Adrian Newey's list of drivers he wanted to work with, and now that Newey is at Aston Martin, it's time the dream came true. Newey and Alonso could potentially be a formidable pair in the future, but with Aston Martin's current struggles going into the 2026 season, we'll have to put those dreams on hold. And with that, this locks in, I would say, the bottom 3 teams of the constructors, with Cadillac in P11, Audi in P10, and Aston Martin in P9. I can see a pecking order of old times emerging this season in the Constructors' Championship, with the backmarkers, the middle of the packers, and the clear front runners. I think we've cleared the back markers now, so we're back to the middle of the pack. Let's have it. In P15, I've gone with Franco Colapinto. I know he has quite good raw pace, having stacked up quite well to previous teammates Alex Albon and Pierre Gasly. When I look at some of the other drivers and teams in the middle of the pack, I feel personally they have a little bit more about them, a little bit more quality that is required to edge out other drivers on a given weekend. And this leads me quite nicely on to Liam Lawson, who I've put in P14. He didn't have the greatest of starts to his Red Bull campaign last season, being dropped after only a few races and demoted back to Racing Bulls. In my opinion, there is no future for Liam Lawson at Red Bull, and eventually the time at Racing Bulls is going to come to an end. So it's really important now that he shows his ability more than ever to try and secure a drive elsewhere on the grid. In previous years, we've seen that rookies or drivers who have been demoted from that Red Bull seat, they have really thrived in that lesser pressured environment, and I think that's what's going to happen to Liam Lawson this season. With that, I'm going to lock in Racing Bulls in P8 in the Constructors' Championship. The next two drivers I'll talk about together as they are teammates. In P13, I've gone with Carlos Sainz. In P12, Alex Albon. Last season, we saw a difficult start for Carlos Sainz, and Alex Albon was racking up the majority of the points. However, things turned around, and Carlos Sainz was really a force to be reckoned with for that Williams team in the second half of the season. It is totally a toss-up who gets the results when they get the results. It definitely is going to depend on qualifying position and who's able to capitalise when things go wrong further up the grid. Williams as a whole are definitely not where they want to be. James Vowles has made it very clear that they have much work to do to be fighting where they want to be fighting. And after a pretty good season last year, it seems that they may have taken a step back. With Mercedes supplying the power unit for 4 teams on the grid, it's possible that Williams could be the weakest of them, and that's why I've put them in 7th place in the Constructors. In P11, I've gone with Pierre Gasly. I definitely think he's the stronger of the 2 Alpine drivers. Alpine struggled a lot last year, and as a result shifted their focus to the 2026 cars quite early, and ended up finishing last in the Constructors' Championship last season. But it seems as though they've made a big jump forward now with the Mercedes power unit, as now Renault will no longer be supplying them. It is a big change to get used to, and I've put them in 6th in my Constructors standings. We are past the halfway point for the Drivers' Championships and the Constructors' Championships, and we have one final team that I would technically classify as a midfield team, and that is Haas. And I've put both of these drivers alongside each other in the championship. In terms of head-to-head, it's quite an interesting one because I rate both of these drivers very highly. I think Ollie Behrman's first full season was excellent, but Esteban Ocon has always been a very consistent driver. My opinion is this season it's going to go Behrman's way, so I've put him just ahead of Ocon in P9 and P10. Okay, it's time for the top 4, and I think it could be a very interesting battle this season, one that I'm very excited to watch unfold. In P4, I have gone with Red Bull. Max Verstappen can often be acting alone in terms of championship pursuits because the second Red Bull seat historically has not always been able to pick up points. With Red Bull, it's a case of will Max Verstappen be putting points on the board alone towards the team's championship, or will Isaac Hadjar be able to assist, or will he fall victim to the curse of the second seat? In P3, I have put Ferrari, who have come out of the gate quite well this season. It looks as though from testing, they have made quite good strides on their 2026 cars with some excellent innovations and some great consistency shown throughout their long runs. With a combination of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton at the helm, I have no doubt that they are going to be extremely competitive, and I believe that Ferrari will once again put a win on the board this season. Sebastian Vettel said it best.
Everybody's a Ferrari fan.
And I think we all want to see Ferrari take another championship, as it's been over almost 2 decades. Alas, we will see what Ferrari has in store for us as the season progresses. But in P2, I've gone with McLaren. Will they be able to defend their championship? I think not. Andrea Stella has been downplaying the McLarens and definitely saying that Mercedes is the one to beat. And if you haven't guessed it, I have put Mercedes in P1, but we'll get to them in a second. McLaren are very good with developing over the course of a season, and so I can definitely see, though Mercedes might start out as the front runners, McLaren will be able to close that gap. And last but not least is Mercedes, who I believe will be back on top this season. They have this knack of being able to develop cars in these huge regulation overhauls and just completely nail it. Now, it's way too early to say if they have nailed it as such, but they do look very strong in testing. It seems as though they're holding a little bit back ahead of the season opener in Melbourne, so we'll have to see what they've got in store for us. And just like that, my prediction for the Constructors table has been completed. Let me know what you think down in the comments, but we still have 8 drivers to place in the Drivers' Championship, so let's get back to that. In P8, I've gone with Isaac Hadjar, and as I've just mentioned when talking about Red Bull, there is that curse of the second seat, which, whether or not you want to admit that it's there, the second driver at Red Bull has seemingly struggled for the last few years. Time and time again, I've said, this is the driver that's going to turn it around. This is the driver that's going to turn it around. It's going to be Checo. It's going to be Daniel Ricciardo if he comes back. It's going to be Yuki Tsunoda. And it hasn't been any of those drivers. And unfortunately, I can't see anything changing. Hadjar had some reliability issues over the course of testing, which also means he's less experienced in running the brand new Red Bull car in comparison to teammate Max Verstappen, and that could obviously be a little bit of a hindrance going into the start of the season. In P6 and P7, I have gone with Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. This is interesting for me because I feel I've been inflating them for years gone by, and now it feels like I'm almost deflating them with the levels that the Ferrari looks like it's capable of this year. I would really like to see Ferrari succeed. So if they're going to be higher up on the table, I'm totally cool with that. This is just where I kind of expect them in relation to everyone else. In P5, I've gone with Andrea Kimi Antonelli. He had a great season last year. It definitely was a grower. It didn't start off perfectly, but towards the end of it, he was really showing his glimpses of excellence and why he was put in that Mercedes seat so quickly. He's not quite there yet in terms of well-roundedness as a driver, but he's still very young, he's still very inexperienced, and this will just be another banking year of learning for him. In P4, I've gone with Oscar Piastri, a championship contender last season and potentially a championship contender this season, just not quite as strong as the drivers ahead. There's not much more to say without introducing the next driver in P3, who is Lando Norris. It's clear that Lando has the edge on Oscar at the minute, especially psychologically considering he's coming into this season as the reigning world champion. Piastri at the beginning of last season was cool as a cucumber and it seemed as though the pressure was not able to get to him. Norris, on the other hand, definitely struggled with the pressure of being at the front of the grid that season. However, towards the end, the roles kind of reversed and it was Norris who settled into a pattern. And I do think that that pattern is going to continue going into this season. Why I think Norris won't retain his driver's championship? Interestingly, I just think the two drivers ahead have more potential. In P2, four-time world champion Max Verstappen. He has been very vocal about not liking this generation of cars, but I still have no doubt that with his adaptability, he will jump in the car and absolutely blow everyone out of the water. With Red Bull and its new powertrain, it will be interesting to see reliability-wise and to see how well Verstappen and Red Bull adapt to having the new power unit. I can definitely see Verstappen being right at the front of the grid. He is consistent when he needs to be and he's always there. You can never count out Max Verstappen. But my P1 driver this season, and I don't think I'm alone in thinking this, is George Russell. He's a great combination of aggressive, tactical, pacey, and so if he has that Mercedes machinery underneath him that is as quick as we all believe it to be, I think there's no doubt that George Russell could absolutely take the crown this season. And those are my predictions done for this season. We'll see how well they stand the test of time. It's usually not very good. Let me know what you guys think of my predictions down in the comments below, and let me know what you think about the season ahead. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.